Okay, we're on the chapter that is Advice to Pandit Shashidhar. And I believe we read where they were talking about whether on page 493, I believe we're about halfway down the page, where Sri Ramakrishna went to the inner apartments to see the deity. He offered some flowers. The ladies of Balaram's family were pleased to see him. The master came back to the drawing room and said, "The worldly-minded practice devotions, japa, and austerity only by fits and starts, but those who know nothing else but God repeat his name with every breath. Some always repeat mentally, O Rama. Even the followers of the path of knowledge repeat Soham, I am he. There are others whose tongues are always moving, repeating the name of God. One should remember and think of God constantly." Pandit Shashidhar entered the room with one or two friends and saluted the master. Master smiling, "We're like the bridesmaids waiting near the bed for the arrival of the groom." The Pandit laughed. The room was filled with devotees, among them Dr. Pratap and Balaram's father. The master continued his talk. Master to Shashidhar, "The first sign of knowledge is a peaceful nature, and the second is absence of egotism. You have both. There are other indications of a jnani. He shows intense dispassion in the presence of a sadhu, is a lion when at work, for instance, when he lectures and is full of wit before his wife." I'll laugh. But the nature of the vijnani is quite different, as was the case with Chaitanya Deva. He acts like a child or a madman or an inert thing or a ghoul. While in the mood of a child, he sometimes shows childlike guilelessness, sometimes the frivolity of adolescence, and sometimes, while instructing others, the strength of a young man. Pandit, by what kind of bhakti does one realize God? Master, 3 kinds of bhakti are found according to the nature of the man: sattvic bhakti, rajasic bhakti, and tamasic bhakti. Sattvic bhakti is known to God alone. It makes no outward display. A man with such devotion loves privacy. Perhaps he meditates inside the mosquito net where nobody sees him. When this kind of devotion is awakened, one hasn't long to wait for the vision of God. The appearance of the dawn in the east shows that the sun will rise before long. A man with rajasic bhakti feels like making a display of his devotion before others. He worships the deity with 16 ingredients, enters the temple wearing a silk cloth, and puts around his neck a string of rudraksha beads, interspersed here and there with beads of gold and ruby. A man with tamasic bhakti shows the courage and boisterousness of a highway robber. A highway robber goes on his expedition openly shouting, "Kill, plunder." He isn't afraid even of 8 police inspectors. The devotee with tamasic bhakti also shouts like a madman, "Hara, hara, vyum, vyum, victory to Kali." He has great strength of mind and burning faith. A Shakta has such faith. He says, "What? I have uttered once the name of Kali and of Durga. I have uttered once the name of Rama. Can there be any sin in me?" The Vaishnavas have a very humble and lowly attitude, looking at Balaram's father. They will tell their rosary and whine and whimper, "O Krishna, be gracious to us. We are wretched. We are sinners." A man should have such fiery faith as to be able to say, "I have uttered the name of God, How can I be a sinner? Imagine a man repeating the name of Hari day and night, and at the same time saying that he is a sinner. So saying, Ramakrishna became overwhelmed with divine ecstasy and sang, "If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name. How canst thou then, O Blessed One, withhold from me deliverance? Wretched though I may be, I may have stolen a drink of wine, or killed a child unborn, or slain a woman or a cow, or even caused a Brahman's death. But though it all be true, nothing of this can make me feel the least uneasiness. For through the power of thy sweet name, my wretched soul may still aspire, even to Brahmanhood." He sang again, "Behold my mother playing with Shiva, lost in the ecstasy of joy. Drunk with a draught of celestial wine, she reels, and yet she does not fall. Erect she stands on Shiva's bosom, and the earth trembles under her tread. She and her lord are mad with frenzy, casting aside all fear and shame." Pandit Shashidhar was weeping. Vaishnavacharan, the musician, sang, "O tongue, always repeat the name of Mother Durga. Who but your Mother Durga will save you in distress? Thou art the heavens and the earth, and thou the netherworld. For thee have the 12 Gopalas and Hari and Shiva sprung. The 10 embodiments of divine Shakti art thou, and thou, the 10 avatars. This time save me, you must. The moving and the unmoving, the gross and the subtle art thou. Creation and preservation art thou, and the last dissolution. Thou art the primal root of this manifold universe. The mother of the 3 worlds, their only savior art thou. Thou art the Shakti of all, and thou thine own Shakti too." The master listened to the last few lines. He went into an ecstatic mood. The master himself sang, "O mother, for Yashoda thou would danced when she called thee her precious blue jewel. Where hast thou hidden that lovely form, O terrible Shyama? Dance that way once for me, O mother. Throw down thy sword and take the flute. Cast off thy garland of heads, and wear thy wildflower garland. If without Shiva thou canst not dance, then let Balarama be thy Shiva. Dance, O Shama, as thou did dance when thou wast Krishna. Mother, play on thy flute again, once so full of delight for the gopis. Play again thy magic flute, which called the cattle in from the pasture, stopping the Jamuna's murmuring flow and turning it backward. Hot in the sky the sun would burn when Yashoda, restless for her Krishna, fondly would call, 'Here, my Gopala, cream and butter, eat them, my darling.' And she would comb his long black hair and carefully braid it. Bending thy supple body, mother, both at the neck, the waist, and the knee, thou did dance with thy friend Sri Rama, while thy 2 ankles played with music, tataya, 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 tataya. Hearing their captivating sound, the gopis would rush there." Again, Pandit Shashidhar shed tears of love. Sri Ramakrishna came down to the consciousness of the world. Pointing to Shashidhar, he said to him, "Why don't you prod him?" He wanted him, or some other devotee, to ask Shashidhar a question. Ramadayal to Shashidhar, "The scripture speaks of Brahman's form as a projection of mind. Who is it that projects?" Shashidhar, "It is Brahman itself that does so. It is no projection of a man's mind." Pratap, "Why does Brahman project the form?" Master, "You ask why? Brahman doesn't act in consultation with others. It is Brahman's pleasure. Brahman is self-willed. Why should we try to know the reason for Brahman's acting this way or that? You have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. Eat the mangoes. What is the good of calculating how many trees there are in the orchard, how many thousands of branches, and how many millions of leaves? One cannot realize truth by futile arguments and reasoning. Pratap, shouldn't we reason anymore? Master, I am asking you not to indulge in futile reasoning, but reason by all means about the real and the unreal, about what is permanent and what is transitory. You must reason when you are overcome by lust, anger, or grief. Shashidhar, that is different. That is called reasoning based on discrimination. Master, yes, discrimination between the real and the unreal. All sat in silence. Again the master spoke, addressing the pundit. Master, formerly many great men used to come here. Shashidhar, you mean rich people? Master, no, great scholars. In the meantime, the small car of Jagannath had been brought to the veranda. Now remember, we're at Balaram's house, and Balaram has his own carriage car for Jagannath, which he carried around the inner courtyard. Inside the car were the images of Krishna, Balarama, and Subhadra. They were adorned with flowers, garlands, jewelry, and yellow apparel. Balaram was a sattvic worshipper. There was no outward grandeur in his worship. Outsiders did not even know this car festival at his house. The master and the devotees went to the veranda. Sri Ramakrishna pulled the car by the rope. Then he began to sing. See how Nadia is shaking under the waves of Gauranga's love. He sang again, Behold, the two brothers have come, who weep while chanting Hari's name. The brothers who, in return for blows, offer to sinners Hari's love. Sri Ramakrishna danced with the devotees. The musician and his party joined the master in the music and dancing. Soon the whole veranda was filled with people. The ladies witnessed this scene of joy from an adjoining room. It appeared as if Chaitanya himself were dancing with his devotees, intoxicated with divine love. It was not yet dusk. Sri Ramakrishna returned to the drawing room with his devotees. Master to Shashidhar. This is called Bhajanananda, the bliss of devotees in the worship of God. Worldly people keep themselves engrossed in the joy of sensuous objects of lust and greed. Through worship, devotees receive the grace of God and then his vision. Then they enjoy Brahmananda, the bliss of Brahman. Shashidhar and the devotees listened to these words with rapt attention. Shashidhar humbly, Sir, please tell us what kind of yearning gives one this blissful state of mind. Master, one feels restless for God when one's soul longs for his vision. The Guru said to the disciple, Come with me. I shall show you what kind of longing will enable you to see God. Saying this, he took the disciple to a pond and pressed his head under the water. After a few moments, he released the disciple and asked, How did you feel? The disciple answered, Oh, I felt as if I was dying. I was longing for a breath of air. Shashidhar, yes, that's it. I understand it now. Master, to love God is the essence of the whole thing. Bhakti alone is the essence. Narada said to Rama, May I always have pure love for your lotus feet, and may I not be deluded by your world-bewitching Maya. Rama said to him, Ask for some other boon. No, said Narada, I don't want anything else. May I have love for your lotus feet, That is my only prayer. Pandit Shashidhar was ready to leave. Sri Ramakrishna asked a devotee to bring a carriage for the Pandit. Shashidhar, don't trouble yourself, I shall walk. Master smiling, how can that be? You are beyond the reach of even Brahma's meditation. Shashidhar, there is no particular need of my going just now. The only thing is that I shall have to perform my sandhya. Master, the Divine Mother has taken away my sandhya and other devotions. The purpose of the sandhya is to purify body and mind. I am no longer in that state. The Master sang the following lines of his song. When will you learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under a single roof will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shyama. Pandit Shashidhar saluted the Master and went away. Ram, I have visited Shashidhar yesterday. You asked me to. Master, did I? I don't remember. But it is nice that you went. Ram, the editor of a newspaper was abusing you. Master, suppose he was. What does it matter? Ram, please listen. Then I began to talk to the editor about you. He wanted to hear more and wouldn't let me go. It was dusk. Sri Ramakrishna began to chant the names of the Divine Mother, Krishna, Rama, and Hari. The devotees sat in silence. The Master chanted the names in such sweet tones that the hearts of the devotees were deeply touched. That day, Balaram's house was like Navadip when Chaitanya lived there. On the veranda, it was like Navadip, and in the parlor, it was like Vrindavan. That same night, Sri Ramakrishna was to go to Dakshineshwar. Balaram took him into the inner apartments and served him with refreshments. The ladies of the family saluted the Master. The devotees were singing kirtan in the drawing room, awaiting the Master's coming. Presently, Sri Ramakrishna came and joined the singers. The kirtan went on. Behold, my Gora is dancing with the devotees. He dances in Srivas courtyard, singing the kirtan. Gora says to all, repeat the name of Hari. He looks at Gadadhar, and from his red eyes are flowing tears of love over his golden body. The Master improvised the lines. Gora is dancing in the kirtan. There he dances, Sachi's darling. There he dances, my Gauranga. There he dances, my soul's beloved. Any comments or questions about what we've just read? Because we're going on to another festival. No comments? Okay. We have the festival at Adhar's house. Sunday, August 3rd, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room in the temple garden at Dakshineshwar after his midday meal. A party of Bauls from Shibpur, several devotees from Bhawanipur, Balaram, and M were in the room. Rakal, Latu, and Harish were then living with the Master. They too were present. The Master began the conversation by addressing the Baul singers from Shibpur. Master, yoga is not possible if the mind dwells on lust and greed. The mind of a worldly man generally moves among the three lower centers, those at the navel, at the sexual organ, and at the organ of evacuation. After great effort and spiritual practice, the Kundalini is awakened. According to the yogas, there are three nerves in the spinal column, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Along the Sushumna are 6 lotuses or centers, the lowest being the Muladhara, then successively the Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, and Ajna. These are the 6 centers. The Kundalini, when awakened, passes through the lower centers and comes to the Anahata, which is at the heart. It stays there. At that time, the mind of the aspirant is withdrawn from the 3 lower centers. He feels the awakening of divine consciousness and sees light. In mute wonder, he sees that radiance and cries out, "What is this? What is this?" After passing through the 6 centers, the Kundalini reaches the 1,000-petaled lotus known as the Sahasrara. The aspirant goes into samadhi. According to the Vedas, these centers are called bhumi, plains. There are 7 such plains. The center at the heart corresponds to the 4th plane of the Vedas. According to the Tantra, there is in this center a lotus called Anahata with 12 petals. The center known as Vishuddha is the 5th plane. This center is at the throat and has a lotus of 16 petals. When the Kundalini reaches this plane, the devotee longs to talk and hear only about God. Conversation on worldly subjects, on lust and greed, cause him great pain. He leaves a place where people talk of these matters. Then comes the 6th plane, corresponding to the center known as Ajna. This center is located between the eyebrows and has a lotus with 2 petals. When the Kundalini reaches it, the aspirant sees the form of God, but still there remains a slight barrier between the devotee and God. It is like a light inside a lantern. You may think you have touched the light, but in reality you cannot because of the barrier of glass. And last of all is the 7th plane, which, according to Tantra, is the center of the 1,000-petaled lotus. When the Kundalini arrives there, the aspirant goes into samadhi. In that lotus dwells Satchidananda Shiva, the Absolute. There, Kundalini, the awakened power, unites with Shiva. This is known as the union of Shiva and Shakti. When the Kundalini rises to the Sahasrara and the mind goes into samadhi, the aspirant loses all consciousness of the outer world. He can no longer retain his physical body. If milk is poured into his mouth, it runs out again. In that state, the life breath lingers for 21 days and then passes out. Entering the black waters of the ocean, the ship never comes back. But the Ishvara Kodis, known as the incarnations of God, can come down from this state of samadhi. They can descend from this exalted state because they like to live in the company of devotees and enjoy the love of God. God retains in them the ego of knowledge or the ego of devotion, so that they may teach men. Their minds move between the 6th and the 7th planes. They run a boat race back and forth, as it were, between these 2 planes. After attaining samadhi, some souls of their own accord keep the ego of knowledge, but that ego does not create any attachment. It is like a line drawn on water. After Hanuman kept the servant ego after realizing God in both his personal and his impersonal aspects. He thought of himself as the servant of God. The great sages, such as Narada, Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, after attaining the knowledge of Brahman, kept the servant ego and the ego of devotion. They are like big steamships, which not only cross the ocean themselves, but carry many passengers. to the other shore. There are two classes of Paramahamsas, one affirming the formless reality, and the other affirming God with form. Trailangya Swami believed in the formless reality. Paramahamsas like him care for their own good alone. They feel satisfied if they themselves attain the goal. But those Paramahamsas who believe in God with form keep the love of God even after attaining the knowledge of Brahman, so that they may teach spiritual truth to others. They are like a pitcher brimful of water. Part of the water may be poured into another pitcher. These perfected souls describe to others the various spiritual disciplines by which they have realized God. They do this only to teach others and to help them in spiritual life. With great effort, men dig a well for drinking water, using spades and baskets for that purpose. After the digging is over, some throw the spades and other implements into the well, not needing them anymore. But some put them away near the well, so that others may use them. Some eat mangoes secretly and remove all trace of them by wiping their mouths with a towel. But some share the fruit with others. There are sages who, even after attaining knowledge, work to help others and also to enjoy the bliss of God. In the company of devotees, I want to eat sugar. I don't want to be sugar. The gopis of Vrindavan too attained the knowledge of Brahman, but they were not seeking it. They wanted to enjoy God, looking on themselves as his mother, his friend, his handmaid, or his lover. The Bauls from Shibpur began to sing to the accompaniment of a stringed instrument. A line in the song was, "We are sinners, redeem us, O merciful Lord." Master to the devotees, it is the attitude of a beginner to worship God out of fear. Please sing about God realization, songs expressing divine joy. To Rakal, how well you sang that song the other day at Nabin Yogi's house. Be drunk, O mind, be drunk with the wine of heavenly bliss. While singing religious songs, one should not constantly refer to one's worries. One should rather feel joyous and ecstatic as one chants God's name. And I think we'll stop there. We're going to do a lot of singing for a couple pages. Continue singing. Are there any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. We all know how to realize Brahman now. Okay. Tomorrow is Swami Brahmananda's birthday celebration, the puja is celebrating his birthday, and it will start at 11 o'clock here in the temple. Everyone is welcome, as you know, if you can get here. The Zoom people may not be able to get here, but and it will start at 11. Then 12:45 we'll have a home of fire down in the convent, followed by prasad. Next Wednesday, we will have our regular reading of Swami Akhandananda by Swami Anandananda. And Saturday, we will have a gospel reading at 5 o'clock. Both the readings are in the temple at 5 o'clock, Wednesday and Friday. And then, I'm sorry? Saturday. I'm sorry. Wednesday and Saturday. I'm jumping ahead to Sunday. And then next Sunday on the 18th, Swami Mahayogananda from Hollywood will come up and give a talk, The Call of the Spirit. And if there are no comments, then we'll close with the chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay. Good to see you, Sunanda and John. Ganga, kind of see you. And Lito, I'm glad to know you're here.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.